Hey, I just wanted to touch base on this particular topic, which I found absolutely bizarre. The other day, I just happened to brush by it while I was skimming through the news, and really, it didn't very much catch my attention. I guess it was kind of interesting at the time, but since then, it's become just absolutely bizarre. I find it bizarre, and that's not to say that there's tomfoolery going on in this particular incident, but yet and still absolutely bizarre. And in fact, I plan to make longer videos about it when I learn more about it, because I find that it's going to be pretty dang significant. And actually, what I'm seeing about it and what's drawing to mind, I'll get into further detail in later videos, but I do believe it's going to be quite controversial, maybe the most controversial thing that I even have discussed to date. All right. And it's in reference to God and in reference to Jesus. And I know a lot of people out there are very scared at both of those topics, extremely scared, and they won't want to talk about it. There's a lot of people out there who come to my channel who don't mind talking about God and don't mind talking about Jesus. And so, this particular topic might even be controversial even to that crowd. In fact, probably will. All right. But I can't help but do it because this is so bizarre and I want to talk about it. All right. This particular topic. I think that this is really going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. All right. And it certainly made a big difference in Jared Wilson's life. All right. I want to take a look at what's so bizarre. All right. I'm not sure, but because it's hard to find out the details, apparently. And I was looking through some of the articles about it, but I believe, from what I understand, this is Jared Wilson, by the way. You probably never heard of him. He's some sort of mega church a preacher or whatever. I never heard of him. All right. And apparently he took his life on Monday, from what I understand, right? On Monday. So if today is the 12th and it's Thursday, okay, so Wednesday would be the 11th, Tuesday would be the 10th, and then, of course, Monday would be the 9th, right? That's what I heard, and I'm going to have to double check, but I heard that he took his life on Monday, which would be September the 9th, right? And by the way, if you didn't know, like I said, he's some sort of mega church pastor, whatever that means. Who even cares what that is? I mean, I know what a mega church pastor is, but to say that this is a man of God is kind of laughable anyways. If you're a church pastor, that is laughable. All right. So he's some sort of pastor, and apparently he's some sort of mental health advocate, which also that doesn't make any sense, all right? Because who's not advocating for people to have good mental health, all right? So apparently this guy was getting paid big money in order to advocate for mental health or something like that, all right? But that's not the most bizarre. I mean, that does happen, I'm sure. I just don't pay much attention to it. But what's bizarre is that Jared Wilson, he took his own life, allegedly, on September the 9th. Look at him in his glasses, you know what I'm saying, in his NPC glasses, his beta male glasses, and I'm sorry to say that, but they are beta male glasses that he has on, and I'm sorry about that. God rest his soul and everything like that, but he looks like an NPC beta male with those glasses on, and I'm sorry about that. All right, I don't mean any offense by that, but okay, so he took his own life on Monday, September the 9th, and I want to take a look at his Twitter, because here's the problem, is Jared Wilson lived on Twitter. And by the way, if you're on these social medias and you're living on them, you might suffer from depression real bad, right? These social medias are just going to amplify your depression, unfortunately, but that should be common knowledge at this point. These social medias pretty much manufacture all sort of depression in people, if you haven't already noticed. Okay? So I want to take a look at his Twitter because it's bizarre, like I said. Here's something that he retweeted from an Anthem of Hope on the day, in which he allegedly took his own life. And it says lonely, depressed, need someone to talk to. Check out our free Anthem of Hope 24/7 chat feature. And you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to. It's interesting that he retweeted this. I guess it's a hotline where you can call people up. I don't know if he called up this place, but he absolutely knew about it. Right? So apparently that Anthem of Hope thing did not help. Unfortunately, allegedly did not help. All right. So let's go. That's not the only thing he did on Twitter on September the 9th. Praying for everyone affected by the hurricane in Bahamas. Man, temporary asylum in America should be a no-brainer. I find this interesting because it has nothing to do with mental health or anything like that. It's like totally, it's an interesting thing, and I don't blame him for like saying that. And I don't know who he's talking about. Like, I don't know if he's arguing with somebody or he said, "Oh, this should be a no-brainer." Okay, well, what's your point? I don't know, but it's beside the topic of suicide or mental health. He brought that up on the very day, on the day of where he took his own life. Meanwhile, that's not the only thing he was doing on Twitter. Like I said, he lives on Twitter. And so his depression obviously is apparent. If you're living on Twitter like this guy does, well, then, yeah, you're going to have depression, extreme depression, right? So he retweeted this by Bob Goff. Love one another. What's simple isn't always easy. What's easy doesn't always last. Whatever that even freaking means, all right? Sorry to say it. Here's his wife is also on Twitter, Julie Wilson. And, like I said, condolences to everybody. God rest this man's soul. But we got to look at this intently because I find it very bizarre. And I think you will too. Again, on September the 9th, the day Jared Wilson took his life. Very significant tweet. He says this: loving Jesus doesn't always cure suicidal thoughts, y'all. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure depression. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure PTSD. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure anxiety. But that doesn't mean Jesus doesn't offer companionship and comfort, right? He always does that. And this is coming from a guy with, unfortunately, the beta male glasses on his Twitter, who lives on his Twitter, all right? And the thing is, when it comes to this tweet, I know there's a lot of people who, believe in Jesus and stuff like that. And I can't blame you because I also believe in Jesus, right? But what he's saying here actually is correct. If you're doing all these things, if you're loving Jesus, it's not going to do all these things magically for you, all right? It's just not. And in the case of Caitlin Nicole Davis, which we're not going to go into right now, but we're going to go into it later on in great detail, that didn't help her out either. There might be people who, of course, they don't ever want to mention the name Jesus except in a spiteful way. There might be people who say, oh, yeah, Jesus didn't do nothing to help Caitlin Nicole Davis from, taking her own life. They might draw that correlation. Thing is, I have to agree with this tweet right here. Doing all these things, loving Jesus ain't gonna save you from none of this. It really isn't. Just because a lot of people get the wrong interpretation of what's going on in this world. They get the wrong idea of what Jesus is here for, right? Like, for example, some people think Jesus is a good luck charm, right? That he's supposed to bring them all sort of luck and stuff like that, and good fortune, and a great, wonderful, financially exuberant lifestyle. That's what they think Jesus is there for, right? Some people think that. Some people think Jesus is there simply for companionship and comfort, and that's it. No, actually, that's only part of the story, all right? That's not it. Some people think that Jesus is God, and that's interchangeable words. That's actually not the case, and I know that's very controversial. We're going to go into it in great detail, and I know some people would be very angry about that. That's actually not the case. Jesus and God is not interchangeable. They're not synonyms. All right. Actually, Jesus is the Son of God. That means he's a different entity, basically. Like I'm a different entity from my father. His name's Richard, by the way. But I'm a different entity from him because I'm Gerard. I'm a different person. I'm different, right? So a lot of people get the whole concept of God and Jesus all mixed up and muddled up. And unfortunately, what I got to say is if you do that, or you might be subsequent to all sort of depression. All right. You might not, if you don't understand the concept of what's going on, depression might get to you and you might even take your own life. And this is alleged that Jared Wilson did this. But if that is true, then you might be all mixed up in your brain and you might become a mega church pastor advocating for mental health. And meanwhile, it doesn't make no dang difference because you took your own life at the end of the day, allegedly, according to reports. All right. This stuff is very bizarre, but it doesn't even stop there. Like, I don't know. I don't know why it says it twice. I don't know why it says it twice. Oh, man. It's like, dude, Jared Wilson tweeted this right here, and then he retweeted himself. All right. This guy was suffering. That's what it seems. On the face of things, Jared Wilson was absolutely suffering completely. And all the signs were there. I mean, he lived on Twitter. He was tweeting out these things and then retweeting himself. All right. Hey, friends, check out this. Anthem of Hope phone wallpaper. It's gonna save you. If you have this phone wallpaper that says your life matters, well then obviously that's gonna save you. And this is Jared Wilson on September 8th, just the day before. We might, we got a couple more tweets to share, I guess, because this dude straight up and down lived on Twitter. Right? And that's red flag number one. If you know someone who's living on Twitter, well, chances are they're about to take their own life, just to be honest with you. Okay? Toxic relationships can create toxic hearts. And meanwhile, who knows how his relationship with his wife was? But this is interesting to retweet. They could create toxic hearts. Remove yourself from a relationship before your toxic heart tries to remove you from your peace. What in the world does that mean, by the way? What does it even mean? I couldn't tell you. And then here's another thing that's interesting. On September the 9th, officiating a funeral for a Jesus-loving woman, okay, who took her own life today. Took her own life that day? What? I don't know if this is just bad grammar or if she took her own life that day and they had a funeral that very day that she took her own life. Or maybe it's just bad grammar. Your prayers are greatly appreciated for the family. And then there's something else that was retweeted. If you have suffered in life, been neglected, mistreated, been abused, or abandoned, I'm sorry that happened to you. God can take all of the hurt and the pain you have experienced in life and use it to touch other people, to make us into the men and women He wants us to be. He did it for me. This is Greg Laurie, who I don't have any idea who that is or how credible he is. He might be very credible. But I wanted to just point out, this also took place on September the 9th. I mean, how many tweets can you possibly do in one day? How depressed can you possibly want to be that you live on Twitter like this? Tomorrow is World Suicide Prevention Day. Is it? Oh my gosh. Far be it from me to even know that existed. But wow, Jared Wilson took his own life the day before World Suicide Prevention Day. Wow. And Anthem of Hope wants you to know that your life matters. Wow. On the day he took his own life, allegedly. 800,000 people loved their life to... What? Loved their life to suicide each year. What? 800,000 people loved their life. I'm not misreading this. Loved their life to suicide each year. You mean lost their life? Wow. And we want to do something about it. The movement. Also on September 9th. Can you even believe it? Can you, if someone goes on Twitter and is talking about suicide prevention, I don't know, over a dozen times in a day on Twitter, somebody needs to call the authorities because that person is on the brink. They need to be on suicide prevention watch. All right? And I'm dead serious. I mean, this is amazing. Hope is for everyone. You don't have to keep living in the darkness. This is the only reason I'm reading all this is because this is all taking place on September the 9th. And hopefully that's the last of it because I know we're getting into September the 8th, in which Jared Wilson retweeted that depression is a liar. No, it's not a liar. Satan is a liar. He's the author of lies. And I got a weird feeling he was whispering all sort of stuff in your ear. Unfortunately, and I don't mean no disrespect, but I got a weird feeling about that. And we're going to end on this tweet. This particular tweet is coming from a Pastor Jim Standrich. Okay, and this is quite interesting. Like I said, there's things about toxic relationships coming from the guy with the beta male glasses. He tweeted something about toxic relationships, and I found that kind of weird. All right, but okay, so he was looking at this on Twitter, in which this particular tweet says, "Time for some private marriage counseling from the public pulpit." And this is a quote: "Wife, you question your husband instead of submitting to him. Stop it." And I'm sure there's all sort of details to it. But the thing is, okay, it's like relationship counseling in which it says, hey, the Bible says that a wife should submit to her husband instead of questioning him all the time and contradicting him all the time because that doesn't make any sense, you know? If a wife is constantly contradicting and questioning her husband and instead of submitting to him, then that marriage is actually a joke, and it doesn't need, they don't need to be married, basically. What a wife should do is submit to her husband, and that's out of respect. That's because she respects her husband and his plans for things and the way he takes care of her. And yes, he should take care of her and make her safe and do all the things that a husband should do. It should be a two-way street in which there's teamwork happening, basically. This is what this preacher was saying. And meanwhile, this is Jared Wilson's response: no, 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 no. Okay? As if that as if that makes any sense. The guy with the beta male glasses is saying no, 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 and then later on tweeting something about toxic relationships that could create toxic hearts. All right? And that's thoroughly suspect, man. That's messed up. This whole thing has been messed up. All right? I don't even know this guy, but this is completely, absolutely messed up. And if you're on Twitter this much, that's a big, big red flag. And I'm sorry about all this, but I'm sorry about all this. It's crazy. Anyways, it's September the 12th. 2019, and we're going to dig into this case a little bit more because obviously this is a treasure trove of things you should know if you don't want to wind up taking your own life one day. All right. Anyways, I'll holla at y'all. I appreciate y'all.